Welcome back to Rural Route. Trent Loos at the American Angus office in St. Joseph, Missouri, sitting with Dr. Stewart Bauck from Igenity. Ricky Fortmiller was busy today, or what's the deal, Stewart?
Well, I hope he's busy. He's supposed to be out there calling on producers. He may be working on his golf game, Trent. I'm not sure. But I'm sure he's actually out visiting customers.
You know, I actually have a bone to pick with him. We've got to talk about goats, Ricky. We'll do that some other time. Igenity. How did this come up with its name?
Well, a good question. Actually, we started this venture, Trent, about 7 years ago now, and at the time we were interested in developing an understanding and actually a business that harnessed some of the emerging technologies in DNA. And so it's a combination of genetics and identity and ingenuity. And so thinking about all the things that this represented, it represented ingenuity, it represented genomes, it represented genetics, it represented innovation, and so we kind of put all that together and came up with the word Igenity to stand for the business that Mary Al has in this area.
Let me be my critical standpoint before we continue to talk about what it does. What is the purpose of looking at the genome, doing all of these things at the DNA level, when the first technology that we've talked about here today, artificial insemination, been around, been available since 1950, and yet 4% or less of the cows in the United States are artificially inseminated. Why are we talking about technology and science at a 40,000-foot level when we're really across the board not using the science and technology that's available at the 1,000-foot level?
Well, you know, that's a very good question, and you know, there's many reasons why, you know, AI may not be used to the extent it should be in the beef industry. Certainly, it's widely used in the dairy industry, but so I think about this, you know, maybe. So let me give you an example of where I think you might find application and why people would be interested in this kind of technology. So first of all, it's pretty simple. What we need can be easily found in a hair from the tail switch. It's a tiny drop of blood, a little bit of saliva, a swab from the inside of the nose. So it's very easy for the cattle producer to be able to collect a sample. And the second thing is that taken early in life, it can provide us a lot of information. And let me give you an example. If I have a bull, if I wanted to estimate the genetic merit of a bull, he would be born, I would grow him up, and I would measure his performance. So when he's born, all I know is his parent averages. And he grows until he's 8 months of age or 6, whatever it is, when he's weaned, and I know something about his performance. And then I put him on test for the winter time, and I grow him up until he's, 12 months of age, and I ultrasound him, and I know a little bit more about him. And then I turn him out as a yearling with some heifers, and he gets them pregnant, and then those heifers calve, and their progeny grow up to the feedlot. And it's 2, 3, 4 years later before I have information that tells me about the parents, his own performance, and his progeny. And that's how we would assess his genetic merit. Well, with the DNA technology and a simple blood sample or hair sample taken on essentially a day-old calf,
or a tag put in that ear, and the DNA from the remnants of that, where that tag went through and made a hole, is captured.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's actually kind of interesting technology, because now I can sort of take a sample, permanently identify the animal, give it an RFID, and now I have a way to kind of track that animal for its life. So there's some kind of convergence of technologies. But the point of the matter is that, properly applied with that little ear tag sample taken on a day-old calf, Trent, I can get an estimate of the genetic merit of the animal that I otherwise would have had to wait until that animal was 3 or 4 years old, after he'd grown up, gone through his own test, and started to have progeny. So that's one of the really exciting things about this, is the ability to get an early insight into an animal's genetic merit and actually use that animal to shorten the generation interval and make even faster progress. So, some really, that's a real simple example of what a rancher could do to take advantage of the technology, and why these kinds of things will be adopted where other technologies may not have been.
You don't want to force the technology on someone. We call that socialism. But you provide the technology, and the 4% of the cattle that are artificially inseminated, that's where the real genetic progress is taking place. That's how I would simplify that whole answer and into the bigger scheme of things.
That's true. I mean, one of the things, and since we're here at the American Angus Association, so one of the things that's really exciting about the way this is evolved in our collaboration is through our collaboration with the American Angus Association, we actually now can incorporate the molecular information or the DNA technology into the national cattle evaluation. So it's brought into the national cattle evaluation along with performance records and the progeny records and the ultrasound records and so forth, and assists in giving a better profile for that animal. Well, now every Angus producer that registers an animal and that provides information can take advantage of this, and what they will get back from the American Angus Association is essentially a, quote, genome-enabled EPD. So it's an EPD, takes into account all the information about the pedigree and the animal's performance, and then is augmented with the DNA technology. And that is available to every Angus producer.
The really interesting thing and the challenge to the beef industry in the scope of food production is that we've long talked about the generational turnover in poultry. And I got out of the pig business in 1997, just got back in this year with 12 sows. I bred gilts in September, farrowed them in January, February, March. I'm already selling pigs. They're pigs that are going to go out and be shown for kids, but the ability to turn those generations. My dad, I talked to my dad yesterday for quite, you can do a lot of talking on the phone in 11 hours driving, by the way, Stewart. He was telling me about the varieties of corn that he's going to plant. And he's planting 6 varieties this year, all from one company, but 6 individual genetic lines, we'll call it, because we're correlating it to beef. And only one of them he planted last year. The other 5 are all new ones. And he tells me that it is rare that he plants more than 2 or 3 from one generation to the next because there is such a genetic advancement in these new varieties. And we all know that, I don't think in agriculture, well, maybe almond trees, because you plant an almond tree and that genetic variety is there for 15 years. But the beef industry has a great challenge because we just don't have that generational turnover that most every other segment of food production has.
Well, that's true. As we talked before, though, I mean, that is one of the exciting things about, the kind of the convergence of technology. So as I explained before, use of AI, use of embryo transfer, use of genomic technologies to profile animals early in life, the example I gave earlier of the bull, those are all things that will allow us to efficiently, effectively, and prudently harness the technology that we have to improve the quality of the beef product in a much more timely fashion. And furthermore, the other thing I want to point out is this technology trend also gives us an exciting opportunity to get into some really novel and interesting traits. And I take, for example, feed efficiency or dry matter intake or, RFI, residual feed intake as it's sometimes called. In conjunction with groups like the Angus Association and through people who are doing bull testing now using, feed intake systems like GrowSafe, we're actually developing, genomic tests that allow us to understand animal efficiency. And that is very exciting. I mean, it would have been extremely difficult and extremely challenging for us to try to capture the phenotypes to get to a trait like efficiency. But now with genomic technology, we can actually approach some of those hard-to-measure traits. And when the beef industry can focus on a quality product produced on grass or in the feed yard with the most efficient animals, there's nothing more exciting about that. There's nothing more exciting than that for the future of the beef industry. I think that's really, wonderful opportunities.
Have you been to Lucy Snyder's bull test in Yerington, Nevada?
I have not, but you know, I know that a lot of people are putting in these feed, you know, these grow safe type systems, and boy, it's really exciting, Trent, to see these.
5 years, Lucy has had that system in place. I've been there all 5 years, and it's phenomenal. We'll talk about what that means to the consumer and the genetic evaluations that we're doing with live cattle and genes, the DNA. More Rural Route with Stewart Bauck after this.